Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Budget and Finance Committee hearing for Monday, February 3rd, 2014. I'm Paul Krikorian, Chair of the Committee, and I'm joined by my colleagues, Council Members Blumenfield, Englander, and Bonin. We'll be taking public comment, general public comment, prior to the discussion of today's agenda items. Do we have any public comment cards? Is there anybody wishing to submit a public comment card? Seeing none, public comment is now closed. Sorry. Okay. Members, I would propose that items 5, 6, and 7 are potential consent candidates unless any members have concerns about these reports. Do you have any cards on?
No cards.
5, 6, or 7?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions on 7.
All right. Mr. Blumenfield?
I'm okay with it.
All right, then items 5 and 6 will be considered on consent without objection. Those matters will be deemed approved on consent. That brings us then to, let's go ahead and finish our regular agenda items before we go into closed session. We'll go next to item number 7.
Thank you.
Item number 7 is the Office of Finance report relative to the annual statement of investment policy effective January 2nd, 2014.
Okay, who's offering a report from Finance on number 7? We don't have Finance here. Okay, we'll hold that one on the desk. We'll move to item number 8. Is there somebody here from the CIO's office on item number 8?
Yes. Item number 8 is adopted budget recommendation relative to instructing the city administrative officer to report on how the city's reserve fund percentage compares to the 10 largest cities in the United States, including how the reserve fund in other cities has trended over the last 5 years. On this matter, sir, we do have a report that has not been released. It's 99.9% done. It's just a matter of some minor adjustments that needed to be made, but we do intend to release it in the very short future, immediate future.
I appreciate that. We'll continue the item for 1 week. I should note this was a report that was requested in the budget process, and it's been 6 months.
Yes.
More than 6 months, and I am eager to get this report because I'm confident that it's going to have largely good news, I hope. And so let's try to be sure that we move from 99.9 to 100 by next week. So without objection, we'll continue that for 1 week. And since we don't...
We have Finance.
Just in the nick of time. Come right on up.
Or we would have approved your item without discussion.
No, they would have come back after a long closed session.
Well, first of all, I apologize for being late. Tom Juarez, Office of Finance, Chief Investment Officer.
Rick Coriel, Senior Investment Officer.
So in accordance with the City Administrative Code, the Office of Finance has submitted the annual statement of investment policy for your consideration. As noted in the cover letter, there are some minor changes which include greater detail of the general pool's objectives, specifically as it relates to the core or liquidity portion of the general pool. With that, I'll take any questions you may have.
Mr. Englander?
Just a couple things. One, if you could walk us through or give us where these recommendations perhaps have come from. I didn't see that in the report where they tie to specific financial policies that might follow or mirror what are other best practices. It seemed to me actually some of these are rather significant, and so I don't want to just brush them over. And are you looking? We need to approve these. Is that correct? You need an
Correct.
approval.
Well, you'll approve the policy in its entirety, but
Because some of these policy items seem a little more significant, that the language, specifically benchmarks, for example, to be used to measure performance, substantially revised. There's a lot of changes in overall in a lot of the policies. So if you can just walk us through some of the reasons for it and where you came up with
Sure.
these,
Sure.
and are these either state or federal standards that we're adopting or trying to bring up to?
No, the reasoning behind the changes to the, again, specifically to the core, is that recently we had a performance audit conducted by the Controller's Office, and one of the recommendations was to add further clarification on the objectives of the core portfolio. The core portfolio, as it stands right now in the policy that stands, states that it's used primarily to meet the liquidity requirements. However, the core portfolio is just one portion of what we look at in meeting the 6-month liquidity. The other two aspects or key aspects of the liquidity portion are tax receipts and departmental deposits. So we wanted to address that in the new policy. Those were the major changes in the language. As far as the benchmarks are existent that have been in place for quite some time.
Well, and the reason I ask, and I'm not sure if we, outside of Office of Finance, if there's any other third party that should review these suggestions, things like adding language to allow staff members to make monthly recommendations to the treasurer on changes to the approved list of authorized brokers or dealers. Is that normal?
That is normal.
Seems like that's a little more loose than strict.
No, we have a rather rigorous approach to approving or considering investment credits or broker dealers. But what we do is we actually, in the Office of Finance, we review this, we propose the changes to the treasurer based on our analysis. But there is a third party that reviews this as well, and it's our investment advisor.
We, on page 12, in section 4, there are things such as reviewing, monitoring under the reporting requirements. It removes the requirement to provide a copy of the statement of the investment policy to the California Debt and Investment Advisory Commission. Is there a way to provide, or is it important enough for this committee perhaps, or to council, to provide where the recommendations came from, or that they're similar to other practices out there, or am I going too far on this? I'm not sure.
Well,
I just don't want to be in this position where, we're down the road 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and we got into some rather risky investments and loosened the language, and staff was making recommendations. We're not providing these reports to the state commission anymore, and somebody comes out and says, well, look at the portfolio, investment portfolio has failed miserably. Council voted on that, and not sure where these are coming.
Sure. We, again, the Office of Finance has staff that reviews the recommendations, does a thorough analysis, for instance, on corporate credits, broker-dealers. And then aside from what we're doing within the office, we have an investment advisor that is separate from our group and the city that is reviewing daily not only our transactions, but our recommendations for credits, along with compliance checks, daily compliance checks of our investments that we purchase on a daily basis. So overall, we do have a separate...
So yeah, this is another reason where we should add the ability to abstain on... Okay. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Yeah, Mr. Blumenfield.
Well, just sort of following up on some of that is how we compare our policy to other municipal agencies.
Well, compared to other municipal, I haven't seen a great deal of other municipalities on how they write their policies. Some are much smaller than the cities. Some are close to. The only other municipality that I'm aware of that is similar to ours is the Metropolitan Water District. Other than that, typically they're much smaller in scope. The staff that we have in place here at the Office of Finance, along with the tools that we have, are much more extensive than most municipalities. That what provides us with the luxury of being able to purchase, corporate credits, in addition to treasuries and agency discounts, or agency notes.
And just in terms of even just comparing the rate of return on a regular basis, making sure that we're in line.
Absolutely.
Or doing better, I assume, than the others.
Yeah, and again, referring back to the performance audit that was conducted during or concluded back in the summer of last year, it was very favorable on the way we report as compared to other municipalities, not only of smaller stature, but also of like type of money. So that will be reported on, sure.
And in other words, just in terms of how we comply with things like the Iran sanctions requirements that are upon us from state law and certain federal laws, how do we ensure compliance with that?
Again, we have not only our internal checks, but we have our investment advisor, too, that has been provided that list that you're referring to a few months back, and we were in compliance with that.
So there's a regular process for checking that?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Anything further? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The report will be received and filed? Noted and filed? What is the appropriate action?
Noted and filed.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. All right, that brings us to our closed session items. Are there any cards on items 1, 2, 3, or 4, our closed session items? I see no public comment cards and nobody raising their hand, so public comment on all 4 of those items is now closed. We'll retire to closed session in the other room, and we'll begin with number 4.
No.
There's nothing further.